For my creating project, I decided to focus on animation. Animation is something that I've wanted to do more of in the classroom, and so this gave me the opportunity to look into different ways that I could do it and how I could actually apply it in the classroom. For my searching project, I looked up a lot of information about other art teachers and how they were doing animation in the classroom and found some really great ideas. And so for my creating project, I kind of took those ideas and altered them to make them work for my classroom. So I wanted to incorporate apps that my students already knew how to use, or at least a few apps that they already knew how to use, so it wouldn't be so overwhelming completing a project of this scale and having to learn everything from scratch. So for my first lesson, the students will be creating a collaborative stop motion animation. If you don't know what stop motion animation is, I have an example here. So this one is a stop motion animation created using Legos and Play-Doh, and it was created by students, and also it used iMovie, which is the app that I hope to have my students use for this project. So I'll play a quick clip from this. I'll just fast forward a little. So in order to create a stop motion animation, they basically take a lot of pictures. They move the characters or the props little by little and take a picture each time they move them. And then when they put them together, they speed up how quickly it shows each clip, and it makes it look like it's moving. So you can see in this version, the students didn't use a tripod because the camera, like there's slight movements of the camera with each picture. And also there were some issues with focus. So those are some things that I would have to talk to my students about, but I think that this would be a good video to show them sort of the basics of it and help them understand why it's important to make sure video or pictures are focused and that the camera stays in the same spot all the time and things like that. So I hope to use this video as an example for my students to show them kind of the basics of stop motion animation. And so they will be working together and creating a video using repurposed objects. So they're going to use recycled materials to create the props or the characters or the scenery or all of it. So it's up to them how they use the recycled materials, but that's one of the objectives, is that they use recycled materials in some way to create part of their project. And another big part of this is that they're collaborating, they're communicating with each other, they're constantly discussing and reflecting on their work. So in order to encourage them to discuss and reflect on their work, they will be using the Book Creator app to reflect on what they do for each stage of the process. So in the beginning, when they're brainstorming ideas, they'll write their ideas down and write about how they chose a final idea. And then when they go to draw their storyboard out, they will also take a picture of that and include it in Book Creator. So if you do not know what Book Creator is, I'll quick show you. This is a Book Creator web page, but it is an app for on the iPad. My students all have a one-to-one iPad program at our school, so they all have their own iPad, and they've used Book Creator from kindergarten on up. They are experts in Book Creator by the end of kindergarten. So they all know how to use it. It's a simple program, and the teacher can export templates for the students. So I would export a template to the students. They would upload it onto their Book Creator program, and then they'd have an outline of everything that needed to be included, and they can alter that as much as they want. So if they want to, change the background color or change the font or rearrange things, they can do that, but they'll know that this page should include this information. So you can see this is their website, and I'll show you an example of, so these are some students using the Book Creator app. In this case, they're using it for their STEM class to look at and record different observations that they made about magnets during their magnetic unit. So you can see they can actually write on the page with their finger or a stylus, or they can type on the page. They can insert pictures. This one they typed and they drew on it. And then when they're done, they can not only write, but they can also record their voice for each page. So for younger students, it's great because they don't have to be able to write everything. They can record their voice. So when it's done, it will look something like this. They can export it as a video, so it will play automatically like a video instead of like a book.
The primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. The secondary colors are green, purple, and orange. Blue plus yellow equals green.
So you can see this was created by a first grader, and they were able to do all of this with little difficulty. So it would be easy for any elementary student to be able to use to add their own pictures, add their own words, add their own voices, and then it creates a little video that they can share with other people about their process or about what they learned. So my students would be, during this lesson, they would be creating these collaborative stop motion animations and working together to decide what the topic is going to be or what their story is going to be about, how they're going to make their characters or props and scenes, and they're going to take time once they decide those to share their idea with another group, and then they can get feedback from the other group, as well as they are going to share it with the teacher and get feedback from the teacher, and then they will begin actually creating their stop motion animation. So I have the steps here for how they will do that, and then along the way, as they're doing it, like I said, they will record their information in Book Creator as well. So they will have not only a final product, but they'll also have documentation of the process that they took, and then they'll do a final reflection in the Book Creator about what they would do differently or how they would improve for the next time, what they liked about it, what they think they could do better. And this could easily be transferred to other subjects and other school settings. The main issue is having something that can take a picture and something that you can put it in to speed up the picture. But you could easily do this. I mean, in social studies class, they could do something about historical figures. In math class, they could create a project about a certain equation or how to do a certain math skill. In science, they could do a chemical reaction. There's lots of different ways that you could use stop motion animation in a whole variety of settings. So my second lesson is living artworks. In this lesson, the students work individually. So they will do a similar animation style project. However, for this one, they're going to be using the Sketchbook app, and they will be drawing a picture and then animating that picture. So what they would do is they would find a picture that they would like to use. And for this one, I have it so that they would use an artwork by another person. For example, they might do Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night or The Scream or something like that. And they would take that artwork and put it into the Sketchbook app. And then they can either alter the artwork on the screen by using the editing functions in Sketchbook, or they could add to it. Like they could have the picture in the background, like it's hanging on the wall and somebody could walk by it or something like that. So the basic premise is similar to stop motion animation. They would make changes on different layers and take screenshots or pictures of each change. And then when they put them together, it would make a video. But I wanted them to do the stop motion animation project first because the hands-on nature of the stop motion animation projects make it a lot easier to understand the concept of needing to make those small changes and how you go about turning that into a video or an animation. So if they do that project first, then when they get to this project, it'll be a lot easier for them to understand how they need to manipulate the picture and change it to take pictures to make it into an animation. So I have an example of how this project could look. It's a little different than what I'm actually doing here, because what I'm doing here is having them create an animation of an existing artwork and using it completely on their iPads. So the example I have is this is a student's artwork. So these are, I believe, kindergarten students that created the artwork, and then high school students use a computer program called Pixlr. It's a free online program, kind of like Photoshop, and they edited the pictures to create this animation. So it'd be similar to this, but obviously with this being high school and me working in elementary currently, the quality of it would be different. The way that they would match things up and the way that they would alter things would be different. But the premise behind it is a similar idea. So I would probably show this to students as an example of how they could edit pictures to make them move. So I'll play this clip. So you can see how they cut different parts of the picture and moved them little by little to create the movement, and they screenshotted each picture and then put them together in iMovie. That was actually an iMovie too, but they used the iMovie on a Mac instead of on an iPad, and created those pictures. So this project is similar, but it's tailored more towards elementary age students, and it uses a lot of the same skills that they did in the stop motion animation, but requires them to use technology in a different way. They're basically using technology from the beginning to the end to actually create their entire project. Whereas with the stop motion animation, there's a lot more of the physical hands-on where they can move the characters around. So again, this project can be transferred to many different subject areas. They can create science. In science, they could create an animation showing the movement of atoms. In social studies, they could create an animation about historical figures or events. In language arts, they could create an animation about a character in a book. So there's lots of ways that they could do it. And like I said, if a school doesn't have iPads available, they could use similar free apps that are available online, or free websites that are available online, such as Pixlr, to do the photo editing. And then they need some way to put it together so it plays quickly. One way they could do that is put the pictures into like a PowerPoint presentation and then play them really quickly while they record a screencast. That way it works fairly well, but it's a much more clunky and slightly more time-consuming way to do it. But if that was the only resource you had, then that would work just fine. And for both of these projects, the disadvantages are that they can take quite a while. Creating animations for that first project, the animation is only expected to be half a minute to a minute, but it takes a long time because you need several photos for every second that you are going to have an animation. So it takes quite a long time for this to happen, and that doesn't even include the prep time of figuring out what the storyline is going to be and students working together to create the props and all of that. So it can be rather time consuming. And also because it's like anything with technology, if you are using technology and one day the internet's out or the app's not loading properly or something like that, that can be a big setback. But there's also many advantages to these projects. So for the first project, a huge advantage is that they're collaborating. They're using 21st century skills. They're collaborating, communicating, thinking creatively, critical thinking. They have to problem solve. They have to think logically and sequentially in order to create their video. Students learn how to express ideas in many different ways. They realize that there's more than one way to express an idea. So there's a lot of advantages to the project that I think outweigh the disadvantages of the project. So those are my 2 lessons for the creating project. Thank you for watching the video.